Hi guys, we're going to cook a recipe today that goes way deep into my sense memory. It's a recipe that I've cooked for you before, and it's really in the category of Italian soul food cooking. And with some small variations, it's also Southern American soul food cooking. So the dish we're going to cook today is broccoli rabe with pork chops. And it's a super simple dish made simple by the fact that we're using a pressure cooker. Pork can be a really tough meat. If you just take the pork chops and saute them, they can be kind of tough. But
Dry.
yeah, and dry. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and pressure cooking can really turn them into a really succulent meal. So, um, just in case you weren't informed, there's an interesting history to the pressure cooker, and for that, we're going to turn to our kitchen science editor, your co-mom, July Lewis.
The first pressure cooker was invented in 1679 by physicist Denis Papin. Called Papin's digester, the device used steam pressure to separate fat from bone in the production of bone meal. He is seen here holding a drawing for his original design in this portrait from the Louvre collections. The motion of the steam release valve inspired him to build a model of a piston steam engine, the first of its kind. The concept of pressure cooking was for centuries mostly applied in industrial processes such as large-scale pressure canning. By the early 20th century, home pressure canners and cookers began to be more prevalent. But it wasn't until the Presto saucepan-style pressure cooker was unveiled at the 1939 New York World's Fair that home pressure cooking really took off. This modern pressure cooker was a success because it featured an easy-to-close interlocking cover instead of the lug nuts and clamps of past models. It was marketed to working women as a fast way to cook healthy meals, as you can see from this World War II ad. The pressure cooker has been a staple in the kitchen ever since.
So, for this simple country recipe from the Mezzogiorno of Italy, here's the entire scope of ingredients. Um, your basic pork chops, but if you really want to get fancy, you can get a center cut pork chop, or if you have a nearby butcher, you can have him cut you extra thick pork chops, which are sometimes available. The beautiful mustard green here is called broccoli rabe or rapini, and this particular brand is Andy Boy, which is exactly the same brand that my mom used to use. It's the most popular brand of broccoli rabe. Some basic good Italian olive oil, any sort of bouillon, chicken or beef, a couple of big monster cloves of garlic, and if you want to complicate the flavors a little bit later, you can throw in some balsamic vinegar. But let's get started. Let's dive in. Point it towards the screen. So a few simple steps. People cut their garlic, I usually just smush it, just crush it with a nice big kitchen knife, toss it in your pressure cooker, another one for insurance, toss that in, and a little bit of Italian olive oil. And we're going to saute the garlic until it's starting to get clear. Okay, so while the garlic is sauteing, take a minute and salt and pepper the pork chops, both sides. And the first thing we're going to do is to use our pressure cooker as a frying pan. We want to brown the pork chops just for eye appeal. Like so. And we're going to brown them on both sides. Okay, so 5 or 10 minutes on, we've browned the pork chops or the center cut pork chops on both sides until they're nicely brown. Next up, we're going to add in this case, about 3/4 of a cup of chicken bouillon. That's more than enough. And we're going to put the lid onto your grandmother's microwave oven. Bring the pressure cooker up to full heat until the top just slightly jiggles every minute for about 15 minutes. And keep in mind that the temperature inside is about 240 degrees, but also the pressure is driving moisture into the pork chops. So they're really going to cook thoroughly, unlike anything you could ever do with anything but a pressure cooker. So we'll be back in about 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, our pork chops are absolutely gorgeous. They are like the tenderloin of pork, only better. And the pressure cooker has driven moisture into the meat, as opposed to a microwave or a regular oven, which kind of draws moisture out of the meat. So those are done, but at this point you could pivot and turn this into a Southern American dish. You would take these pork chops out, slather them with Sweet Baby Ray's or whatever your favorite barbecue sauce is, put them under the broiler for a couple of minutes, and you'd have fantastic barbecue. Over here on this side of the kitchen, instead of broccoli rabe, you would be preparing some collard greens, which are going to take a little bit more time than rabes to cook. But the rabes are going to be cooked in a minute. So the first thing I'm going to do is just cut off the dry base and remove a lot of the stalks. And I'm going to add a step that my father never bothered to do, which is to actually rinse them. Broccoli rabe usually are not sandy, like some other field greens are. But I'm going to give them a pretty thorough shower, and I'm just going to toss them right on top of the pork chops. This all goes back on the stove. And again, the rabes are going to be cooked in 1 minute, way faster than they would cook in a microwave. So in actual fact, the rabes have been cooking about 3 minutes under full steam, and we're just going to cool things off until we see the crispy drop. There. Let's see what we got. Okay, those are cooked. Those are done. 3 minutes. And you've got a complete Southern meal. And that's it. So that's our main dish, broccoli rabe with pork chops a la Alma, a dish that goes back generations and generations. Okay, guys, so that's another great traditional recipe that you were raised on. I hope you pay it forward and send it down the generations with your own variations. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy. See you next time.
Bye-bye. Ciao.